Welcome to the Triathlon Nutrition Academy podcast, the show designed to serve you up evidence-based sports nutrition advice from the experts. Hi, I'm your host Taryn, accredited practicing dietitian, advanced sports dietitian, and founder of Dietitian Approved. Listen as I break down the latest evidence to give you practical, easy to digest strategies to train hard, recover faster, and perform at your best. You have so much potential, and I want to help you unlock that with the power of nutrition. Let's get into it. Joining me today on the podcast is Australian elite triathlete Emma Jeffcoat. Welcome, Emma.
Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be on.
So good. I've actually wanted to have an athlete on the podcast for the entire time I've been running a podcast, but for so many reasons it hasn't happened. And you are actually the first, the OG, so you can lift the tape, take the first prize, get the win, whatever you want to call it. And yeah, congratulations for being the first athlete on the TNA podcast.
Oh, that's actually an honor. That's exciting. I like that. Hopefully I can offer a different or alternate perspective. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
I couldn't think of anyone better, right? Someone that I sort of know personally a little bit, just, break the ice into the athlete world. But yeah, you're right. I wanted to get your insights today on what it's like being an elite triathlete, particularly from the nutrition perspective, because you've got some pretty amazing achievements to date. Do you want me to tell the people how awesome you are? Or do you want to do it yourself?
No, I will not be doing that myself. So I'll humbly leave that one to you.
Okay, awesome. Well, we could spend a whole episode talking about all the things you've done in your career so far, but a couple of the big ticket items would be Tokyo 2020 in the individual race as well as the mixed team relay. Currently ranked 116 worldwide, but you've had 73 starts, 21 podiums and 13 wins. And you've only been doing triathlon for how many years?
I think it's coming on 7 years with my professional license. So sounds like a lot, but in comparison to some, relatively quite new still to the sport.
Yeah, very new. You're just like a little baby in the elite space, but you're not a baby. You got your big girl pants on. You're also named the Australian Elite National Champion in 2021 and the Australian Elite Super Sprint Champion in 2021, plus lots of golds in things like Tisy World Cup, Abu Dhabi Mixed Team Relay, Hamburg WTS Mixed Team Relay World Championships. That was a bronze medal in 2019. Mooloolaba World Cup. I remember you winning that time. And so many other races.
I mean, as athletes, I feel like sometimes you just gloss over results. It's probably been the last 12 months that I said to someone, I was like, oh, you don't take podiums for granted anymore. But yeah, it's always humbling when you hear back, I guess, the awesome achievements you've had over the years.
I think it's part of being a competitive athlete. You just you're right, tick, next. What's next?
Literally, I think until COVID, when all of a sudden you pumped the brakes and didn't get any racing for what was nearly 2 years, it flipped things on its head and actually made you appreciate the smaller things and getting back to racing and more the day-to-day rather than having those cherries dangling in races every weekend to look forward to and tick off. It became more about the day-to-day, which definitely changed my perspective. But what a roller coaster.
What a roller coaster. We'll talk about that today. But you came from a very swim-focused background, very good swimmer. You like a super fish in the water and very strong in surf, open water as well. But tell me about your journey into triathlon as an elite triathlete.
Yeah, so you're right. I grew up doing surf lifesaving and swimming. So surf lifesaving, my kind of pet event was the Ironwoman. So swim, board, ski, and then you would run through transitions between the three on the sand. So got to that at a national Australian team level through high school. And then when I left school and was in uni, and I kind of always saw myself being a professional athlete. And I just always thought that I would do that through surf lifesaving. And it wasn't until I did my first triathlon in year 12 at the all schools event. So I hired a bike and just had literally lace up runners and I did an outfit change in between legs. But my teacher at school entered me because he thought I'd be handy at it and made the state team for nationals. And off I went to Busselton in WA and raced nationals over there. And so that was kind of my first taste of triathlon and I really enjoyed it. But to me, I was fully invested in surf lifesaving. And whilst I'd been doing a little bit of cycling and a little bit of running kind of on the side, it was, probably a few years later that my surf lifesaving coach, we kind of had a heart to heart, and he kind of said, what do you want to do? And I said, I'd love to be a professional athlete where I'm actually a professional. I want to be traveling the world, racing the best in the world and getting the best out of myself. And for surf, whilst it's like such a competitive sport here in Australia, it doesn't really offer that. And so he nudged me towards triathlon and taking that seriously. So yeah, I got started with a triathlon group back then called HPT, so High Performance Tri, under my first coach, Mick Delamont, and was someone that always trained hard and gave my best, and came into the sport really late in post-junior. So everyone else had done the whole junior thing, and I was coming in like about 20 years old and was racing as an age grouper and raced as an age grouper for a few years. And then that's how I earned my professional license, was winning nationals in my age group down in Devonport, which is a race we still race on as elites to this day. So yeah, I got my professional license in 2014 and started racing at the big girls, and yeah, I guess never looked back.
It's such an awesome journey to hear. Kind of like an underdog in a way. You come into the sport late, you haven't had that usual development in the sport. Like athletes that are at the same level as you now, they're doing it from like primary school, early day high school, and you're like, yeah, come in late and start smashing it.
I actually think it was a blessing in disguise, because I think it meant that I was so enthusiastic and excited about the sport late. And I feel like I had that ability to develop other skill sets through surf, whilst there wasn't that much land-based activity, which probably caught up with me later in terms of like then having run loading and injuries happen later. But I feel like it definitely meant my career in the sport's going to be one with some longevity to it now, given I am still quite fresh and the sport itself still excites me. And I feel like I've still got so much more to give now at the ripe old age of 28.
So old, Em.
I know.
And did you expect to get to Tokyo or the Olympics in that time frame or trajectory of your career?
I think it was probably around 2016 where things started coming together, and 2017, I had my first World Series opportunity and I actually came 11th. And I remember that was like a real kind of wake up moment. And I was like, okay, wow, like I can do this. Like I can race against the best in the world and actually like race and compete. And I definitely think that was a step in the direction of me being like, Tokyo 2020 is a realistic goal to have and to set for myself. And then, yeah, in the following year, I went to win like Mooloolaba World Cup and Chengdu World Cup in that 2018 year. And results just came really nicely over that period. So I feel like, yeah, Tokyo 100% was like a realistic goal that I was aiming towards and trying to project towards. And then obviously we had the hiccup of COVID, which meant it was 2021. And the way my journey shaped over that period, it was probably a blessing in disguise for me, given I had a change in coach in the end of 2019. So it just meant that I had that extra time with my new coach, Danielle Stefano, to really, I guess, get some work done. And yeah, I came out in 2021 and had some great results and some great form, and it got me on the team for Tokyo. And it definitely made a dream come true in becoming an Olympian, but it was probably a dream that came later in life once I got into triathlon, rather than being one of those kids that watched, say, the Sydney Games and wanted to be an Olympian since they were 6. That was probably not me, but it definitely was me in probably the more recent years.
So cool. And what's the next big thing that you've got your sights set on? Like, what's the racing calendar look like for 2023 and beyond?
Yeah, so obviously this time around we've got a shorter cycle. So after the 5 years to Tokyo, it's now 3 to Paris. So it actually blows my mind that we're talking about an Olympic Games next year in 2024. So for me, that's like the next big goal. You know, I'm not scared to put it out there and say that that's 100% what I am aiming towards and getting selected on that Aussie team for Paris. And for me this year, we're in a base block of training now ahead of the international season. And for me, it's all about trying to get some consistent racing back under my belt and improving that world ranking. You know, I didn't race for nearly 2 years over COVID and was like stuck in Australia. So my world ranking's definitely suffering at the minute. So it'd be awesome to, get back to that World Series level of racing consistently, staying healthy, having fun. And I think, you know, I'm a strong believer in, 1, the awesome team I've got around me, and 2, if those underlying factors of being, you know, healthy and happy and looking after myself, that then flows into really consistent training, and then that flows into results. And I think if I can do the basics well and have a strong season, then I think that'll set me up really nicely to go after getting selected onto that team next year in Paris.
You definitely have a good life. Like out of any athlete that I follow on Instagram, you're like one of my favorites to watch because you do such cool things outside of triathlon. It's not just all swim, bike and run, like horse riding, lighthouse adventuring, drone flying, like so many cool things. I'm very jealous of your life. But can you give us a sense of what a day in the life of Emma is like? You know, it's not all like happy, fun Instagram shots. Like being a professional athlete is actually really tough. Like walk someone through what a typical day might involve.
Yeah, people always make fun and say like, how do you manage to squeeze like 26 hours in a 24-hour day kind of thing? That's definitely me. But, you know, I'll put like a clause on that and will say Instagram is like a highlight reel. And 100% I am someone that has so many interests and I like thrive when I'm having fun and able to do things that give me like enjoyment, whether that is, as you said, getting away to up the coast to the lighthouse or riding my horse or going surfing. That's what keeps me happy. And I think like a happy athlete's a fast one. But there's definitely days where it is not glamorous and they're long days and it's tiring. And that's just the reality of the sport, but I do love it. So for instance, Wednesday for me is one of my bigger days. And so this morning it was a 12-kilometer easy aerobic run. And then we went into a 5K threshold race pace swim session. And then I had 90 minutes of gym. And then I went and saw my physio for a session with them. And then tonight we have crit racing. So it's about a 3-hour ride all up. And I do the men's C grade crit. And then I follow that up with the women's A grade crit. So over an hour, nearly an hour and 10 of racing all up. And the women's race starts at 7:30 p.m. So by the time I'm home, it's close to 9 p.m. and it's a massive day.
So that's 5 sessions in a day.
Yes, it's a big day, but that's triathlon, right? And I don't know what to do with myself when like we have a recovery day on a Friday and say Friday just looks like gym and a 90-minute easy ride. And I literally finished. I'm like, what do I do with all this time? So like, lo and behold, I've got myself a job at the Urban Surf the Wave pool down here in Melbourne. That's what I'll do. I'll go and work at the pool and I can use my nursing skills and I can surf before and after work. And I remember my coach was like, you know, you could also just rest.
Nah.
Exactly.
So how do you support a day like that with nutrition?
Good question. It's definitely been something that I've worked really hard on the last 2 years. Like my journey in triathlon, performance and racing wise, you could almost draw a parallel line in terms of the journey that I've had with nutrition as well. And I've come a really long way, and my kind of understanding and my beliefs around nutrition and also like just my daily habits have come so far. It's something I'm actually really proud of because for a while there it wasn't great. And it's been something I've managed to turn around, and like the effects that we've seen on other factors within my life that nutrition's played a direct role in terms of whether that's hormones or bone density or pure performance has been pretty incredible to see. So yeah, nutrition's a massive one. And you know, I spend nearly an hour almost most afternoons or evenings getting myself ready for the next day. And part of that is packing a lunchbox for the next day. And I said to you before we jumped on the podcast, you know, I've got like a cooler esky bag in my car and that's got like snacks galore, but also like overnight oats. It's got a sandwich in there. It's got a protein shake. It's got snack options so that I can support the training and also manage the recovery so that I'm able to do those big days and back them up and not fall into underfueling, which is something I've definitely consciously and unconsciously been stuck in like negative cycles in the past.
What do you think's been the biggest shift in your nutrition over that time?
The biggest difference apart from how I view nutrition and I guess the much healthier relationship that I have with food myself would be 100% like I'm more proactive and I guess aggressive around eating. It's all about like fuel the work required. So that's the way I view it now in terms of being like reactive and almost I would have to earn the right to eat through exercising. Now it's I'm going to pre-fuel so that then I can go and exercise and get the most out of myself. And then I'm going to fuel again post-workout. So I'm then recovering and getting the benefits from that session. And that's something I definitely wasn't doing in the past. And I had to go through some injuries and some red S and energy availability mismatch to have to learn that the hard way. But yeah, it's a lesson I'm really grateful in because now I'm so comfortable and confident with sharing that story and trying to educate other elite athletes or age group athletes or anyone really, even friends of mine, when they talk about nutrition, that I'm like the first to be like, no, like you're not skipping breakfast. That's the meal you never skip. So it's been a journey, but it's definitely been a really positive one, especially the last kind of 2 years.
I love that you've said that, you're fueling the work required and being more proactive. And I use the word aggressive too. And it doesn't mean that you yell at your food, but it just means that you are more diligent with your nutrition, because I see a lot of age groupers fall into that sort of hole as well. And that mentality of carbs are bad, carbs are evil, carbs are going to make us fat, and having to earn nutrition is definitely a counterintuitive mindset when it comes to trying to fuel for 3 sports, not one. Obviously, an elite athlete should have a lot of things nailed, but that you've had to go through that journey to learn that too firsthand. Unfortunately, some hard lessons along the way, but everyone has those hard lessons, right? And it just prompts you and encourages you to just do better and be better.
And that's exactly it. Like, it very much was like an attitude of, having to earn the food, or then like earning it and still feeling guilty for having carbs. And then all of a sudden you get educated and upskilled and you're like, holy crap, it's almost impossible for me to meet my calorie requirements for the day. And like continuously undermeeting that is literally just putting me into like energy availability issues, injury risk, illness, or just not being able to perform in training. So therefore not getting like those adaptations and not being able to back up. Yeah, like I only recently sat down at the start of this year with the dietitian I work with and kind of re-looked at that. And we realized that even whilst I'd made such positive changes, like I still just unconsciously wasn't fueling quite enough on those big days. And for me, like that looks like nearly 5,000 calories, like on those big days. Like it is huge amounts, but it's again, that education piece and the aggressive kind of proactive fueling that once I kind of laid it out, I was like, oh, actually it makes sense. And it's not hard to meet those like requirements. And I feel like early on too, one of my biggest worries was that I would put on weight from eating so much. And I actually think it's so fascinating to see that I nearly like at one point nearly doubled my calorie intake and actually over time put on lean muscle mass and lost fat and ended up leaning down to a more complementary body composition for racing. And it just blew my mind that I was eating nearly double and wasn't having to restrict my calorie intake to get there. So I think that's something that, again, is such an important lesson. And sometimes you have to learn that through experience. But yeah, it's been a game changer for me.
Yeah, it's another great lesson, and something that I talk to athletes about all the time too is sometimes eating more helps you to fix your body composition. It puts on lean muscle tissue that increases your metabolic rate, and therefore you burn more at rest, and then your body composition kind of sorts itself out in a way. Are you a triathlete sick of fumbling around in the dark with your nutrition? Is nutrition the missing link in helping you reach your goals? And do you want to maximize your training efforts and level up your performance? Of course you do. Come and join me for free at Fuel School. It's a free 3-day live and online nutrition training week. And I've designed it to give you the nutritional edge in 2024 and lay the foundation of your day-to-day fueling and race nutrition. It's on the 14th to the 16th of January, 9 a.m. Brisbane time, so Australian Eastern Standard Time every day, which is 3 p.m. PST, 5 p.m. CST, and 6 p.m. EST on the 13th to the 15th of January. To register, head to fuel.school. Yep, www.fuel.school. Whether you're a seasoned triathlete or just starting your nutrition journey, this free event is your opportunity to learn from an advanced sports dietitian and triathlon nutrition specialist and transform the way you approach your nutrition for 2024. Fuel.school, it's free. I'll see you there. You may not want to dive into this, and we don't have to go down this hole, but like, where do you think the mindset of restriction and having to earn your food comes from?
I feel like for me, it came from, and I'm like more than willing to be completely like open and transparent in that, like, I guess I came to the sport from a swimming and surf lifesaving background. And definitely I feel like when I came into the sport, it was more leaning towards, especially in the women's racing, like quite a lean physique. And there was just really not much to the girls at that point. It was quite biased towards a running race. You weren't really getting those kind of swim bike breakaways at that point that you do see now, where it's almost like you need to be a strong athlete. Otherwise, you're not going to be able to like cover the level that the swim, bike and run is at now at a World Series and Olympic level. So that was like almost like a cultural piece. I feel like when I came into the sport, in that that's the way the sport insinuated you need to be or needed to look like. And I didn't look like that. You know, I was broad shouldered. I put on muscle so easily. I'm naturally quite muscular and solid in my build, and you can't change that. Like I could lean down as much as I like. I'm not changing like my basic physiology and anatomy. So I feel like I was just throwing myself against a brick wall, trying to like make a shift happen that was never going to happen in terms of that body image. But that's definitely where I feel like the restriction and the kind of negative habits around food came from, was trying to strive for like what I saw as like an elite athlete and what I thought an elite triathlete should look like. I felt like I didn't look like that. So the uneducated younger athlete in me thought the answer to that was just cutting back what I ate and not exercising more, but just doing the exercise we do is enough, right? So that definitely was a habit I had. And then I guess as a result of that then is when the guilty feelings came in, because then when you would eat carbs or you would have finish a long ride and have like adequate fueling afterwards, it's like, why am I feeling guilty for just refueling after a long ride? Like I would feel good if I could eat less after a long ride. Like it was just really negative and spiraling behavior. And I think to an extent, it was probably fed by the people I was around, in that other females especially were doing the similar thing to me and had similar attitudes. So that's probably something that in the last few years has been such a positive change to see, and a really big shift in the sport. And it's amazing to see. And I think it's like setting us up so well for the next generation of females and male athletes coming through the sport to hopefully have healthier habits and healthier body image.
Yeah, fit and strong, not skinny.
Yeah, I remember someone saying to me, like, your strength is your strength. Why are you trying to get rid of it? You know, and I was like, yeah, wow, you're actually right. That's exactly it. Like when I play to my strengths and I'm strong and I'm healthy, that's when I race my best. So why am I trying to change that?
Sometimes you just need things like that pointed out to you in a different way or at the right time. It makes you sudden like shift your thinking in that.
Exactly. And such a hot topic. I feel like there's so many different bits of wisdom that you could pass on to people in the nutrition space, especially. I don't think as an elite athlete, you're exempt or like above the rest. I feel like very similar, almost age groupers sometimes have more complex fueling and nutrition needs because they're balancing families and full-time work alongside full-time training hours. But it's crazy.
It is crazy. They don't necessarily train 5 times a day, but they still fit a lot of training into full-time work and family commitment. So yeah, it's nuts. And I think it's nice and refreshing for them to hear too that even an elite triathlete has the same challenges and like even some mental battles around food and nutrition. It's so personal, it's so emotional, and it's definitely not something we're taught at school. And depending on what type of background you come from, you might come from like a gym background or a dieting culture or mentality, and then you go to do triathlon and there's no way you can meet the demands of that sport with that type of mentality around food.
100%. And I think like how long is a piece of string? But, you know, in the world we live in now with social media too, like it's really hard to kind of look at an athlete and say like people will do like my day on a plate kind of thing.
I hate those things. I hate them.
Me too. Me too. Just so fake. And I'm like, no way. Like it's a wild world out there when it comes to nutrition. So I just think like the more people can be educated with the right people around them and the right information, it's so critical.
I'm working on it. So if you're taking a break and you can do whatever the heck you want for a while, what would be the first type of food or thing that you would do?
Oh, I'm such a sweet tooth. And honestly, like I have the same thing for breakfast, like my first, not breakfast, like my first like almost like meal one. Yeah, literally every day. And I love it so much. It doesn't change whether it's race day or whether I'm on a break. And it's crumpets with Nutella and Biscoff. And I took crumpets to Tokyo. That's how much I'm like, they're just a staple. And it just literally some days when I'm like quite tired and I've got to get up early and I'm like, wake up and then I'm like, oh, every day it makes me excited to like have that first meal in the morning, and it's delicious and it satisfies my sweet tooth. So there would be chocolate in there, or I'm quite a fan of a sorbet ice cream.
I've seen this obsession with Biscoff. Like I've seen you travel with it all around the world. Like jars and jars in your suitcase.
Literally, I take it everywhere. I need to get a sponsorship of Biscoff. So if they're listening, hit me up.
All right, so you've been to the Olympics already. You are like the elite national champion. What's the big goal? Like another Olympics? Is there something beyond that? Do you want to go long course one day? Like what's the grand plans? Can you give me some insight into your mind?
Yeah, I think definitely post Tokyo, like it's not so much like tunnel vision anymore in terms of like it all being about making an Olympics and like triathlon. Like whilst I am 100% in on trying to qualify again for a second Olympics and looking beyond Paris, even towards the Com Games in 2026 down in Melbourne and LA, like I don't feel like that's off the cards at all. But in saying that, I also am so excited to give 70.3 a shot. And I think it's something that would really suit my kind of like physiology. So that's something I'm definitely excited to kind of look at post 2024, however that year plays out. So that's definitely something. But I feel like for Emma as a person, like it's been really exciting post Olympics to take a step back and like do a lot of work on myself. And what it actually excites me is like goals I have and like dreams I have for me outside the sport as well. So, you know, like I did a nursing degree, and honestly, like getting to work in that field and hopefully like as a paramedic or like an advanced care paramedic, that's something to me that like now more than it ever did before is like really exciting. And just, you know, like I was at one of my best friend's weddings last week. And even that, like, I think as I get a bit older, meeting someone and becoming a mom and having a family, like they're all things that make me so excited and are big dreams that I have that I feel like post Tokyo, I guess my focus just widened that little bit. And it's been really refreshing to take a look at what Emma wants to do as the triathlete, but what Emma wants to do as well. So yeah, there's so many big goals and dreams I still have in the sport of triathlon. And I feel like I've still got so much to give. But yeah, I definitely have been giving a little bit more thought to also like what Emma wants to do after sport. And that's been exciting. And it's something that a few years ago would have been really daunting to me. But yeah.
That's so exciting. Amazing what an Olympics does to your mind. I have no doubt that you won't achieve all of those things that you set your mind to. Like you're very humble, but you're also very like driven and competitive and committed to the things that make you happy, which I love about you.
Thank you. And that's, yeah, definitely something I feel like is me. Like I'm very dedicated, and I just am such a strong believer in don't lose sight of the things that make you happy. You know, you don't have to give those things up to be a professional athlete and make it in the sport, which I sometimes feel like you might feel you need to, or feel like you're not taking it seriously enough. And I feel like if there's one thing that like I'm quite proud of my whole journey is that like I feel like I haven't lost that part of me that has always still just like loved adventure and fun and is a bit quirky. And I honestly believe that's what's kept me in the sport and is keeping me in the sport for years and years to come.
So cool. And you're also very humble, like and very grounded.
I don't know. I feel like I'm just like everyone else. And I think maybe that's because my journey in the sport, I came to it late and I was an age grouper and went through the racing channels that a lot of age group athletes do. So having been to uni and doing a nursing degree, I just think lots of elements add just like, I guess maybe that wider perspective and keep me probably quite grounded or down to earth.
Yeah, life skills outside of triathlon, which is nice.
Yeah, thank you.
So any advice for the triathletes listening? Any famous last words?
Well, my little motto has always been like dare to dream. And I love that motto, but it's like less probably about the dreaming, more probably like about the daring. I just think go after things that kind of make you excited and make you want to get up in the morning and like set goals. And I feel like providing you do that, win or lose, you're always going to get something out of yourself and learn something about yourself, and you're hopefully having fun and enjoying the process. So one, dare to dream. And then also, as we've touched on, like, don't forget to have fun along the way. Life's too short.
Great advice. Well, thank you so much for taking some time out of your massive day, particularly on a Wednesday, to talk to me, Emma.
My pleasure.
And good luck for the racing season ahead.
Thank you so much. And yeah, it's been a pleasure. Hopefully I've given some different insights as an athlete. And yeah, I'm stoked to be on the podcast today and having a chat. So thank you.
First athlete. Woo!
Woo!
Thanks for joining me for this episode of the Triathlon Nutrition Academy podcast. I would love to hear from you. If you have any questions or want to share with me what you've learnt, email me at podcast@dietitianapproved.com. You could also spread the word by leaving me a review and taking a screenshot of you listening to the show. Don't forget to tag me on social media at dietitian.approved so I can give you a shout out too. If you want to learn more about what we do, head to dietitianapproved.com. And if you want to learn more about the Triathlon Nutrition Academy program, head to dietitianapproved.com/academy. Thanks for joining me, and I look forward to helping you smash it in the fourth leg. Nutrition!